What if I told you that the invisible line between the United States and Canada just got a whole lot more complicated? This week brought shocking changes that could affect millions of people on both sides of the border, from snowbirds canceling their winter plans to a mysterious diplomatic directive that has Canadian officials pushing back. The US-Canada border isn't just the world's longest international boundary, it's a living, breathing connection between two nations that share more than just geography. They share families, economies, cultures, and yes, millions of people who cross back and forth every single year. But right now, that relationship is being tested in ways we haven't seen in decades. Welcome back to Weekly Migration Update. I'm host here at Info Express, and today we're breaking down the 4 biggest migration stories between the US and Canada that everyone is talking about this week. We're going deep, not just the headlines, but what these changes mean for real people, real families, and the future of North American migration. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for story number 3. It involves a policy change that just eliminated 86% of a common border practice overnight, and almost nobody saw it coming. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into what's really happening at the world's most important border. First up, Canada is celebrating what officials are calling a major win in border security, and the numbers are absolutely stunning. Just before Christmas on December 24th, Canada ended a practice called flagpoling. Now, if you're not familiar with this term, let me explain what it is, because it's actually fascinating. Flagpoling was when people already in Canada would drive to a US border crossing, go up to the booth, tell the US agent, "I don't actually want to enter the United States," turn around, and come back into Canada. Why would anyone do this? Because by exiting and re-entering Canada, they could trigger immediate immigration processing instead of waiting weeks or months for an appointment with immigration officials. Think about that for a second. People were essentially using the border as a processing shortcut. It was completely legal, but it created massive bottlenecks at border crossings and tied up officers who could have been doing other work. So what happened when Canada ended this practice? An 86% drop in this activity almost immediately. That's not 20%, not 50%, 86%. Overnight, thousands of work hours were freed up for border officials on both sides. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Between June and December of last year, Canada saw an 89% decrease in illegal crossings from the US by foreign nationals who were already in Canada. We're talking about people who came to Canada legally, maybe on a tourist visa or temporary permit, then tried to cross into the US illegally when they couldn't extend their Canadian status. And on top of that, asylum claims dropped by 18% during the same period. Now these numbers tell us a few important things. First, enforcement works when it's strategic and well implemented. Second, Canada is clearly taking border security much more seriously in response to both domestic concerns and pressure from its southern neighbor. And third, and this is crucial, these people didn't just disappear. They're still somewhere in the system, they're still making decisions about their future. The big question is, where are these people going instead? Are they staying in Canada and waiting longer for appointments? Are they trying other routes? Are they leaving North America altogether? We'll keep tracking this story in the coming weeks. Now, here's where things get politically spicy, and frankly, a little uncomfortable if you're a Canadian official. This week, Canadian Immigration Minister Lina Diab had to address reports about a directive allegedly sent by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And when I say allegedly, I mean that multiple sources reported on this, but there hasn't been official confirmation from the US State Department. So what did this directive supposedly say? According to the reports, Rubio instructed American ambassadors around the world to pressure Canada and other allies to reduce their immigration levels, but it doesn't stop there. The directive also asked ambassadors to raise concerns about crimes associated with migrants in these countries. Let that sink in for a moment. The United States, through its diplomatic channels, is reportedly telling its closest ally, a country it shares the world's longest undefended border with, how to run its immigration policy. Minister Diab's response was measured but firm. She said she wasn't aware of any such directive, which is diplomatic speak for either "we haven't received this officially" or "we're choosing not to acknowledge it publicly." But more importantly, she made it crystal clear that Canada sets its own immigration policy through consultations with provinces and stakeholders, not based on directions from Washington. Now let's add some context here, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. The Trump administration has made immigration a cornerstone of its agenda, not just for the United States, but as part of its foreign policy approach. We've seen increased rhetoric about border security, proposals for mass deportations, and now, apparently, pressure on allies to adopt similar stances. But here's the irony, and it's a big one. While the US is pressuring Canada to reduce immigration, Canada has been one of the most successful countries in the world at managed immigration. Their points-based system, express entry program, and provincial nominee programs have attracted skilled workers, entrepreneurs, and families who contribute to the economy. This is a fascinating geopolitical moment, folks. Immigration policy has always been considered a sovereign issue, one of the fundamental rights of any nation-state. But in an interconnected world, especially between two countries as economically and culturally intertwined as the US and Canada, can immigration policy ever truly be independent? Think about it. If someone crosses illegally from the US into Canada, that's an American problem that becomes a Canadian problem. If Canada lets in millions of immigrants and some eventually make their way to the US, that's a Canadian decision that affects American security. The big question: will this diplomatic tension affect everyday people trying to move between these countries? Will we see more restrictions, more scrutiny, longer processing times? The answer is, we're already seeing it. Keep watching. The next two stories show exactly how these political pressures are playing out in real life. Here's something that might surprise you. And honestly, when I first saw these numbers, I had to double-check them because they represent such a dramatic shift. Fewer Canadian snowbirds are heading south to the US this winter, and we're not talking about a small dip. We're talking about a fundamental change in a tradition that's been going strong for decades. For those who don't know, snowbirds are typically retired Canadians who escape the brutal winter months, November through March, by heading to warmer US states, especially Florida, Arizona, and Texas. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who own or rent properties down south, who have built communities, who have favorite restaurants and golf courses and beaches. This isn't just tourism, this is a lifestyle. Many of these folks spend 4, 5, 6 months of the year in the US. Some people joke that certain Florida towns should have signs that say, "Welcome to South Canada." But this year, it's changing dramatically. Why? 3 interconnected reasons, and they all matter. Number 1. Tariff tensions. The ongoing trade disputes between the US and Canada have created uncertainty. When you're planning to spend months in another country, you want stability. You want to know that the economic relationship between these nations is solid. Right now, it's not. Number 2. The political climate. Let's be honest here. Politics matter to people, especially retirees who follow the news closely. The rhetoric around immigration, the treatment of visitors, the overall tone of US politics, for many Canadians, it's simply less welcoming than it used to be. Some snowbirds have reported feeling less comfortable, experiencing more scrutiny at the border, or just not wanting to spend their retirement dollars in a country whose political direction they disagree with. Number 3. The weak Canadian dollar. This is the practical pocketbook issue. The exchange rate between the Canadian and US dollar has made American vacations and properties significantly more expensive. When you're on a fixed retirement income, a 25 to 30% markup on everything you buy, groceries, gas, dining out, golf fees, it adds up fast. So where are they going instead? Mexico is seeing a boom in Canadian visitors. Portugal, Spain, and other European destinations are getting more interest. Some are even staying home and investing in winter activities in Canada. And here's the stat that really drives this home. Florida realtors report they used to see about 2 Canadian home buyers every month back in 2023. In 2025, they're seeing between 0 and 1 per month. That's not a trend, that's a collapse. Now let's talk about what this really means, because it's bigger than just vacation plans. The snowbird economy is massive. We're talking billions of dollars flowing from Canada to the US every winter, property taxes, maintenance, utilities, retail spending, healthcare, entertainment, all of that creates jobs and supports local economies in states like Florida. When that money stops flowing, or when it flows to Mexico or Portugal instead, entire communities feel it. Real estate markets shift. Businesses that catered to Canadian clientele have to adapt or close. Local governments lose tax revenue. But on a human level, this is about something deeper. It's about people who built winter routines over 20, 30, even 40 years. Friendships formed at the same RV park every season, grandchildren who visited during spring break, memories in places that felt like a second home, and now, because of economics and politics and uncertainty, they're reconsidering everything. This isn't just about migration policy, it's about how economics, politics, and personal values shape where people choose to spend their time and money. It's a reminder that migration, even seasonal migration, is never just about laws and borders. It's about belonging, comfort, and feeling welcome. And now we come to our final story, and this one should genuinely worry Canadian policymakers, because it reveals a critical flaw in what's otherwise considered one of the world's most successful immigration systems. Highly educated immigrants are leaving Canada at twice the rate of those with less education. Let me repeat that because it's stunning. Twice the rate. We're talking about engineers who came through express entry with bachelor's and master's degrees, healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, specialists who went through the complicated credential recognition process, IT specialists and software developers who were recruited specifically because Canada needed their skills, business professionals, researchers, academics, the exact people Canada spent time and resources attracting. They're leaving. Now, before we dive into why this is happening, let me give you some context that makes this even more interesting, and frankly, more frustrating for Canada. Between 2010 and 2019, the number of US non-citizen residents moving to Canada increased fourfold. That's a 400% increase. We went from about 2,100 people annually to over 9,000. Why were Americans coming to Canada in such large numbers? The answer is actually pretty simple. Canada offers clearer, faster pathways to permanent residency compared to the complex and lengthy US green card process. If you're a skilled worker in the United States on an H-1B visa, you could be waiting 10, 15, even 20 years for a green card depending on your country of origin. The backlog is massive, the system is opaque, and there's no guarantee you'll ever get permanent residency. But in Canada, if you qualify for express entry, you can have permanent residency in 6 months to a year. It's transparent. You can see your points, you know where you stand, you can plan your life. So here's the paradox, and it's a big one. Canada has built an immigration system that's better at attracting talent than the United States. They've streamlined the process, made it merit-based, created pathways that make sense, and it works. They're pulling skilled workers away from the US, which is exactly what they wanted to do. But, and this is the critical but, they're not keeping them. The highly educated immigrants who come to Canada, get their permanent residency, maybe even get citizenship, are then leaving at alarming rates, particularly from sectors like engineering, healthcare, and IT. So what's going wrong? Several factors are at play. Credential recognition issues. A doctor from India or Pakistan might have years of experience, but getting licensed to practice medicine in Canada can take years and cost tens of thousands of dollars, so they end up driving Uber or working in completely unrelated fields. Lower salaries. An engineer or software developer in Canada might make 30 to 40% less than their counterpart in the United States, especially when you factor in the exchange rate and cost of living in cities like Toronto or Vancouver. Lack of opportunities. Canada's economy, while strong, is smaller than the US. There are fewer companies, fewer positions at the highest levels, fewer opportunities to advance in certain specialized fields. High cost of living. Vancouver and Toronto are consistently ranked among the most expensive cities in the world for housing. You can be making a 6-figure salary and still struggle to afford a home. The pull of the US. Here's the irony. Many skilled immigrants use Canada as a stepping stone. They get Canadian permanent residency or citizenship, gain North American work experience, build their credentials, and then move to the United States where they can earn more and have access to a bigger economy. Think about what this means. Canada is essentially training and credentialing workers for the United States. They're doing the hard work of selecting talented immigrants, integrating them, giving them a foothold in North America, and then losing them to their southern neighbor. This isn't just an immigration story. It's an economic competitiveness story. When you lose your most educated, most talented immigrants, you lose innovation, tax revenue, economic growth, and the very people who are supposed to be driving your economy forward. And here's what keeps me up at night about this. If Canada, with one of the world's best immigration systems, can't figure out how to retain educated immigrants, what hope do other countries have? The lesson here is clear. Attracting talent is only half the battle. Creating an environment where that talent wants to stay, can thrive, and feels valued. That's the real challenge. And right now, Canada is struggling with it. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. Border enforcement, diplomatic tensions, snowbirds changing their plans, and the brain drain challenge. But now I want to hear from you because this community is what makes these videos valuable. Are you planning to move between the US and Canada? Have any of these recent changes affected your plans or your family's plans? Maybe you're a snowbird who's reconsidering your winter destination this year. I'd love to hear where you're thinking of going instead, and what made you change your mind. Perhaps you're a skilled professional thinking about making the move north. Are you worried about job opportunities or the cost of living? Or maybe you've already made the move and you have insights about what it's really like. If you're an immigrant who came to Canada and then left, or you're thinking about leaving, tell us why. What would have made you stay? This is important information that policymakers need to hear. And if you work in immigration services, border security, or you're just someone who follows these issues closely, what am I missing? What should we be paying attention to in the coming weeks? Drop your thoughts, experiences, and questions in the comments below. I read every single one, and honestly, some of the best insights in these videos come from you, the community. Your real-world experiences help everyone understand what's actually happening beyond the headlines and statistics. And if you found this breakdown valuable, if you learned something new, or if you just appreciate the deep dive into these complex topics, smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this video to more people who care about migration issues. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every single week we're bringing you the policies, the politics, and the real human stories behind the numbers. We don't just report the news, we analyze it, we contextualize it, and we try to understand what it means for real people's lives. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Next week we're diving into how these border changes are affecting families separated across the border. Parents, children, spouses who are dealing with these new policies in real time. It's a story you won't want to miss. And one more thing. If you know someone who's thinking about moving between the US and Canada, or someone who's affected by these immigration changes, share this video with them. Knowledge is power, and the more people understand what's actually happening, the better decisions they can make for themselves and their families. Thank you for being here, for engaging, and for making this community what it is. Canada's border enforcement is showing dramatic, measurable results: an 86% reduction in flagpoling, an 89% decrease in illegal crossings, and an 18% drop in asylum claims. These aren't marginal changes, they're fundamental shifts that show what happens when governments decide to act decisively on border security. Political tensions are rising in unprecedented ways. The alleged Rubio Directive, whether officially acknowledged or not, represents a new approach to international relations where even allied nations are being pressured to align their immigration policies with American priorities. Canada's response has been firm. We set our own policy. But the tension is real, and it's not going away. Canadians are rethinking their traditional winter migration to the US, and this isn't just about weather preferences or vacation destinations. It's about economics, politics, and feeling welcome. When Florida realtors go from 2 Canadian buyers a month to almost 0 when entire communities built around snowbird culture are adjusting to their absence, that's a significant economic and cultural shift. And perhaps most concerning for Canada's long-term prosperity, the country faces a growing challenge keeping its most educated immigrants. They can attract talent, they're arguably better at it than the United States, but retention is proving to be a much harder problem to solve. When your best and brightest are leaving at twice the rate of everyone else, you have to ask some hard questions about what's not working. Here's what ties all of these stories together. Migration between these two countries has never been just about policy, laws, or borders. It's about economics. Where can I earn the best living? It's about family. Where can we be together? It's about opportunity. Where can I build the life I want? And yes, it's even about the weather. Where do I want to spend my winters? The US-Canada border is unique in the world. It's the longest international boundary that's largely undefended. For most of its length, there's nothing but a cleared strip of land and some markers. That's possible because of centuries of peace-shared values, deep economic ties, and mutual respect. But respect and cooperation require ongoing work. They require both countries to consider how their policies affect not just their own citizens, but their neighbors. They require understanding that in a globalized world, no country is an island, not even one as large as Canada, or as powerful as the United States. The stories we covered today, they're not just news items, they're indicators of where this relationship is heading. And based on what we're seeing, it's heading into a period of uncertainty, tension, and change. Will these two nations find a way to work together on migration challenges? Will they compete for talent while also losing it to other parts of the world? Will economic and political pressures push them further apart? Or will shared interests bring them back together? We'll find out together, week by week, story by story. I'm your host here at InfoX Press, and this has been your weekly migration update. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I know there are millions of videos you could be watching, and I'm genuinely grateful you chose this one.